so I don't know how much of that footage is going to come out, and I don't know whether I got any photos from it, but I just had an absolute nightmare. I was in two minds on my way up about what I would do and where I would come on this trip. I'd originally planned to go to Glencoe and the Cairngorms, but I decided to go north via Glencoe, because it was forecast to have a bit more precipitation, and I thought that might mean a little bit more slow on the peaks. As it happens, it did. Just a sleet storm came in, and it was absolutely impossible to work with, but I'm kind of on the first day eagerness, so I persevered anyway. Impossible to film and take photos. Impossible to take photos on its own. But yeah, I was just really eager to get some shots in the bag, but got absolutely soaked. I usually wait until several days in before I get soaked and fed up, but I can see that this is going to be a difficult trip.
Rannoch Moor always draws the short straw on my trips. So far I've always relegated it to a route rather than a destination. I get out of the car, take a few photos, and then move on. I had fully intended to spend the night in the Glencoe area if conditions were looking good, and looking back at this footage now, perhaps I should have done so. The snowfall became heavy as I drove, and could have made for a beautiful sunrise shoot, but the first days of a trip can be hard going at the best of times. It often takes me a few days to stop forcing images and to look at the landscape without preconception. Perhaps I was a little too keen to move on, but I had Assynt on my mind, and after being soaked by the sleet, I was keen to drive, get some heat circulating in the car, and dry off my gear. So I kept going, through Glencoe and Fort William, and north. Well, good morning. You find me back in the northwest Highlands of Scotland. I'm currently at Loch Maree and it's a beautiful still morning. I arrived here a little bit late this morning. I missed the peak colour, but it was a beautiful morning nonetheless. I've been exploring these glacial erratics that are deposited down by the shore on the loch here. The lights turned a little bit direct for my style of shooting, but I'm going to stick around, have some breakfast, and hopefully clouds will roll in and cause some nice atmospherics. Some lovely dusting of snow on the hills. It should be a good day. You see that cloud over there obscuring this peak of Sleoch? That's all my snow evaporating. Very frustrating. I think I'm going to pack up and find another location. Okay, I spoke too soon. It's cleared and the sun is blocking the direct light on the foreground. Lovely. Oh, it's coming back out, but it will change again in a minute. Can never tell what's going to happen in the Highlands. I was just about to rage quit and leave, and then some clouds came and diffused the sun, made the light lovely and soft, and the clouds lifted from the peak of the mountain and added some lovely texture to the sky as well. I've moved in a little bit tighter. I did include both of these dead trees in the original composition, but I've moved in tighter just on this stump here because I think it's a little bit more focused. So this stump is framing the corner of my vertical composition. Had to work a little bit hard to get the apex of the tree to intersect with the right place in the background so that it didn't look well, so that it looked deliberate. And there was a bit of left and right movement needed so that the tree wouldn't intersect with any of these lovely rocks in the foreground. But yeah, really happy with this. Gonna stick around for a bit and see what happens. Maybe explore a bit more of the shoreline. But yeah, got a bit of my energy back. I stuck around the shore of Loch Maree for a while, and I explored the bit of the bank close to me. But as I was saying before, I find it really hard to be objective in the first part of trips. I'm so desperate to produce something worthwhile that I second guess myself all the time. On location, I wasn't sure about any of the images I framed up. Rather than enjoying being in a new place and taking my time to explore, I wanted desperately to find an image. This grasping attitude led to my decision to move on from Loch Maree and head further north. As I started to drive, I second-guessed my choice, even more so when a weather front moved in and created some beautiful light. But in my unsettled state, I tore myself away and relegated Loch Maree to another pit stop on my way to Assynt. I was certain that the tree on the shore of Loch Tulla would not work. While it is not an amazing shot, it works well enough as a black and white conversion. If I hadn't have got so disheartened by my soaking, I would have stuck around the loch for longer and perhaps explored some compositions shooting back towards the Munros that cut the south edge of Rannoch Moor. I like the composition of the glacial erratics on the shore of Loch Maree, but conditions were not right for this shot. This image would work well for astro. Equally, some side lighting at blue hour would be just the ticket. I fully expected to do a black and white conversion of this image, but in the end the green of the Scots pines makes this shot for me. This isn't my usual style of image, not least because it contains a lot of blue midday sky, but I like the dimensionality and how the different elements pop from the background. The 2.5 minute exposure that smooths out any texture in the water helps in this respect. I knew this at the time, but looking back at these images reinforces it. Rannoch Moor and Loch Maree deserve more of my attention. Instead, they ended up as liminal spaces, gateways to my destination further north, and, as you will see in the next episode, this restless, grasping attitude isn't a healthy way to arrive at a place you love to visit. Please tune in next week to see how that goes.